Hey everyone, it's Nerviews, and welcome to my movie review of Netflix's Rise of the TMNT. I know, after you saw that 19-minute review of Mutant Mayhem, you're just craving for more TMNT content. However, I could be a bit delusional. The Rise Netflix movie shares its fast-paced, stunning action scenes and an over-the-top, anime-like feel with the series. However, it just doesn't hit it all the way out of the park for me. This movie review has spoilers for its previous, accompanying, but not necessary to watch series, and the 2003 TMNT TV series. The Rise series introduced new characters, lore, roles, and weapons for the brothers, which is why you see Leo in this movie not being the leader yet. I was a bit skeptical going into this movie due to my mixed relationship with the Rise series. On one hand, I liked most of the designs, action scenes, animation, lore, new characters. And on the other hand, I didn't like some characterizations, in which I hope you can tell which ones they are. Thankfully, in this movie, the issues I had with the Rise series were resolved. But honestly, it was two series and a movie too soon. Speaking of the series, I also did like the new lore and characters it added, but it was absent in this movie, which is a shame to me. Out of context, you may be wondering why the turtles are of a different size and shape to each other, which in the Rise series was that all four of them being different species of turtles, with Raph being the big alligator snapping turtle, for example. I like the concept of each turtle being a different species, and how their heads all looked pretty similar to each other, except Don's big-ass forehead. The designs of the turtles were also not just blue, purple, orange, and red, as recognizable as they are. What made them stand apart were some silly faces on Mikey's knee pads to signal that he was the goofy one, to even Don's tech gauntlet to indicate that he's the tech guy. Small additions to add character to the brothers without them saying anything themselves is a nice touch, in my opinion. However, one thing I didn't like from the series is the characterizations of the turtles and some other characters. But a running theme of the series is that each characterization and characters themselves got better, eventually. In the series, Raph was leader at first, and that was fixed in the Rise movie, thankfully. While he wasn't great at planning, he did take on the mother hen-like, overprotective brother who uses his anger in fights and mostly has control over it. Other characterizations, or maybe just some over-characterizations in the series, such as Leo's overinflated ego and overconfidence, were solved in the movie. Another characterization I did not like in the series was Master Splinter. However, that was resolved before the movie. It wasn't really that present here. And I really didn't have a problem with some of Mikey's characterizations in the series. However, Donnie's mischaracterization in the series did resolve itself in the movie, but the mischaracterization in the series I could probably write a whole essay on. Now that we are on Donnie, his mischaracterization of overconfidence and a massive ego, similar to Leo in the Rise series, wasn't as present as it was in the series. He was really only focused on the mission at hand, with removing the battle shell to merge with the Krang ship. There was also a moment in the movie that was basically maneuver math problem. Ain't nobody got time for that, Don, especially in the middle of a battle. There was even a Rise series episode where he makes his brothers as smart as him, and even he couldn't stand another 3 of him. So, unless you've learned nothing from that episode or chapter in your life, solve that math problem maneuver and get to the point. There are some simple points in Donatello that is present in this movie, its previous series, and 3 other series. He does machines. Yeah, he does machines and technology in this show and movie. In another comic, he seems to be the therapist/doc in the strip. Yes, guys, the comic. The thing that TMNT is based off of. And same as it never was in the 2003 series, the team falls apart and it was Dawn who brought them back together in the end. In 2012, he is the tech guy who's just a sweet Cinnabon. In 1987, he is the tech guy who is sometimes a bit of a jerk, but helps the team out a lot in the end. In the Rise series and this movie, he puts trackers on his brothers, records everything, at one point was so fed up with them, he just decided to make them as smart as him briefly. Not to mention, in the Rise series, he is overconfident, has a massive ego, and way too cocky throughout the majority of the series, and seems to have little or no care for others, and even the Rise comics destroyed a large amount of property. Though I do know that him destroying that property is to comedic effect. But overconfidence, a massive ego, way too cocky, and a little or no care for others is not how I would like to see Dawn displayed, especially when I still prefer Mutant Mayhem Dawn over Rise Dawn, and Mutant Mayhem Dawn isn't that into machines. And if that is not saying something, I don't know what is. But thankfully, Rise movie Dawn and Rise series Dawn are similar but different in that Rise movie Dawn I didn't have much of a problem with because that math problem maneuver only happened once in this movie. Future Mikey has a new ability that is introduced, and then the present day Mikey version discovers how to do it in the end of the movie and how he triggers it. This ability is rather self-destructive, as shown in the beginning of the movie, and at the end of the movie, when all the rest of his brothers share in the blowback of this new ability, so it isn't so self-destructive. It looks like this new ability is triggered by something emotional or something else, but the fact that it can be so self-destructive isn't really elaborated on and is used for the purpose of travel between dimensions and time to advance the story and hit some emotional beats. It is known from the series that each of the turtles in Rise have mystical powers, but they are usually attached to their weapons and aren't as internal as Mikey's new mystical portal power. Speaking of this series not being necessary to watch this movie, it looks like the turtles got their familiar double sai, nunchucks, bow, and katanas, yet their usual roles on the team were not made final, and the Rise movie does explain that, and how and why Leo went into his leadership role with what happened with Casey Jr. and Raph. And again, to the detriment of some fans, this is yet another Leo v. Raph and maybe Leo and Raph focused movie. Raph was recovering from the Season 2 Shredder battle when he had an argument with Leo about not it all being about him and not taking things seriously. And for once, I would agree with it not being all about Leo, because it's not called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. It would be only when Raph sacrificed himself for Leo and Leo getting a pep talk from Casey Jr. that surrounded Leo's overinflated ego that then he would realize his place in the team. Leo realizes how to get his brother back from being mind-controlled when he remembers and figures what was behind what Raph said to him earlier in the film, and hopefully it makes him understand his role to trust, protect, and lead the team. And that is pretty much a running theme of this movie and series. Character roles, weapons, and characterizations get back to the usual Leo leads, Dawn does machines, Raph is cool but rude, and Mikey's a party dude. All of this mentioned gets resolved, eventually. But, again, it was 2 series and a movie too soon. However, the movie had some comedic and some heartfelt moments, with Mikey being an emotional core, and how he got Leo back from the crank in the prison dimension in the present, and how the rest of the brothers supported Mikey and rescuing Leo by getting Leo out and keeping the Krang leader in their prison dimension. Netflix's Rise of the TMNT movie shares its series' fast-paced, stunning action, visual style, and art direction, but the action in the movie itself just doesn't hit it all the way out of the park for me. The movie is better than the series, with its usual familiar team roles and familiar but flawed characterizations, but it's just only a step up from the series, in which the series had much more lore, striking designs, and new characters that I liked, and it was a pretty funny show. The show still had me 60% liking it from what I've just listed, to 40% not liking the show based on some missed characterizations that unfortunately dampen the experience of watching it. If you don't know about the series and believe my opinions on the missed characterizations in the show, you'll probably like the Rise movie. Even if you are into TMNT, you might like the Rise movie. If you had on and off feelings about Rise and what they did with it, you'll probably think the Rise movie is better than the series. I am only saying this since people have different opinions on the series and movie. Personally, I am still iffy about the series, but enjoy the movie better over the series, with this Rise movie only getting a score of a 68 out of 100. Also, personally, I do know that this score is only a few points below Mutant Mayhem, and that is on purpose. The Rise of the TMNT movie and series exist in their own category of fast-paced anime-like science fiction and fantasy genre, with an almost hyperactive and over-the-top feel to it. Mutant Mayhem is more grounded in reality over Rise, so I am rating Rise in its own category separate to Mutant Mayhem. And I hope this review is a good balance of my personal interest and opinions in the TMNT franchise, and trying just to enjoy this movie as separate as I can from the franchise as a self-titled movie reviewer. I will be moving back in time with my next TMNT movie reviews, starting on the Bayverse ones, Batman v TMNT, 2007, and then the 90s live-action movies, so if you're waiting for my opinion on those movies, they'll come out around that order when they do. After these next non-TMNT related TV reviews I will be doing on this channel, I will also be then reviewing Shredder's Revenge, just as it is, and not Dimension Shell Shock. Look for that review of that game on my Nerby Games channel in the link in this video's description. I did unbox and review some 1987 TMNT Funko Pop Minis on my Nerdware channel that I have in the recommended section of this video's end screen. The video is mostly unscripted, my camera's autofocus is confused for a lot of the video, and the video is a bit of a mess, but that doesn't mean you can't watch it. On my Creator Nerd channel, I did some voices for Leo, Don, Mikey, Raph, and Splinter, and a TMNT-themed Vine compilation. I don't care that it's 2024, I did make a Vine compilation. Links to my Creator Nerd and Nerdware channels are in the video description if you want to check out more of my TMNT-themed stuff. In the meantime, I have 2 other non-TMNT TV reviews up next on this channel, so you know what to expect. It's time to make some turtle tracks and end this video. Cowabunga! Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to check out my recommended video or playlist in my most recent video here. If you want to support my channel, links to my Patreon, Coffee, and or Streamlabs are in the description below. And if it comes down to it, you can always subscribe.